Hey there, and welcome back to the O-Yoroi. So I've finally decided, I've been sidetracked by building projects at the moment, that I'm going to go full mural. I'm just going to paint it full on, best of my ability. This is either going to turn out amazing, or like complete pap, and I'm hoping for the amazing option, or at least closer to the amazing end of the spectrum. So first of all, I'm going to sit down and start filling in the patterns. I thought about doing the sort of eagle wing pattern on here, but I think that might be a bit OTT. So the next step is going to be blocking in colours, and I'll get the whole pattern blocked in. I think I'm going to go for sort of white or blue-white feathers, orange flesh / orange scales, white claws, orange flesh around the sort of the nose, the beak. You can't really see it, but like down here, sort of in between the beak and the feathers of the head, I'm going to just probably block that in orange. I think the beak's going to go grey, black, sort of fade, and yeah, I'm about to find out whether I can paint or not, I suppose. So I'm going to crack on with the initial stages of blocking everything in, and I will show you that when I am done. Catch you momentarily. Here then is all of the orange put in on the leg pan, and what you can just see here is I'm just starting to key line in a darker orange. So first of all, I've used the extra opaque heavy orange from the game extra opaque range from Vallejo Paint. And then I've mixed at about 2:1 ratio some ancient Blood Angel orange with that, so I've got this darker tone, and this is key lining, right? So I'm following the lines which were the original forms and trying to give them a bit more of a sweep, cut them in, and it's going to give that, it's going to clean everything up, give it textures, and then I'm going to do just the bottom edges of all of these scales running down here, covering the entire foot. So yeah, slow process. Here is the sort of clawed hand on the shoulder. I decided not to flip it around because I worked out that I can actually put my thumb backwards, so it's almost as if the thumb's been rotated backwards, thrusting something towards you, like the orb. I think this is going to be the hardest thing to get right. And this is actually the reason why I'm doing this more like a mural than a pattern, because this looked like such a messy lump of turd. It looked like poop. But by the time it's all painted, it'll get three-dimensional quality to it. I can cut back in the claws a bit bigger over the top using white. I can do an awful lot to create definition and give the sense of... because unfortunately there's some foreshortening involved in this. So it's a weird combination of foreshortened perspective, with the claws being right near you and the rest, everything else receding away from you, so the actual sort of hand, clawed hand itself receding away from you, combined with like flat imagery. So if you look at sort of a classic Chinese dragon painting or what have you, the claws are just done as sort of, it's done as a one-dimensional flat image, and this is a bizarre combination of the two, really. You might also notice that there are little dabs of grey here and there. That's just where I've used my enamel primer just to touch in all the bits where paint was wearing off. Because I'm handling this miniature far too much. Moral of the story is fix your miniatures on things where you can actually hold them. The problem I have with this is even if I did superglue it to the base, it wouldn't matter. The miniature's too heavy, the superglue would do nothing. I maybe should have drilled and wired it so that I could have held it by a base, but I'm not really familiar enough with doing that kind of thing, and also I just don't trust myself, and I don't want to ruin a miniature, you know. So either way, I'm going to crack on with this, and I'll show you the key lining once I've got it all done. Catch you in a mo. Here then is the key lining all done on the leg piece, and it's beginning to look okay. So next thing I'm just going to run in highlights along the top edges of all of these scales, and then for that I'm going to be using, I think it's Elf Skin Tone from Vallejo's Game Colour range. So I will be back with you in a mo once I've got that done, although I'll give you a quick glance at the shoulder fair. Here's the shoulder then, and you can see by using colour it's starting to bring out a bit more form and structure, so it's starting to look a bit more like a clawed hand. Once I've put the claws in white, that'll make a huge difference as well, contrasting colours and all that malarkey. Also do take into account that the orb in the middle, that's actually going to end up sort of a limey greeny colour as well, so there's a whole load of painting in a whole load of ways. Also I'm going to be doing a whole load of highlighting After Effects on the whole miniature once I've done the mural, so that it will blend everything back together. Also I'm going to start using some of those kind of fade high fidelity effects that Angel Giraldes is noted for and exceptionally good at, and I'm not very good at. But again, it's all a learning curve, and the more you paint, the more you try these stupid things, and the better you get really. So I'm going to crack on and I'll be back in a mo. Here's the highlights dropped in then, and I think that's about all I'm going to be doing on the flash. It's only on this leg on the scales. I think it's enough. The only thing I do want to do is I'll probably mix a bit of black with the orange, darken it right down to yeah, very dark orangey, blacky, browny colour, and just trace an outline around the edges, but not before I've painted in all the claws and everything. I think the hands as such need a little bit more work, but I'll just show you that first. So you can see it looks a bit more hand-like, but it's still all rather messy. But again, I'm going to have to do the claws first, and then I'll use this sort of orangey browny blacky colour to outline and put in some just key identifying lines in order to make it look right. It'll all come together in the end. It'll work out. It'll be fine. So I'm going to crack on with painting in the claws, and seeing as how I'm going to be moving on to white, I think I'm going to do the feathers in white, so I'll start moving on to them as well at the same time as I do the claws. So again, it'll be sudden shifts, and I'll show you what's going on in a mo. Catch you in a second. Claws have all been at least first tier whited in. It's a ever so slight hint of the elf skin tone mixed in with the white there, just to knock it slightly away from pure white. And yeah, it's difficult to show, but there's the sort of other side of it. I'm going to have to cut in lines just to create separation kind of between the toes on these claws. Shoulder claws also done, and you can see it's starting to come together. It still looks like a blobby poo, but each step is one step in the right direction, and once I think it's moved back and I've done outlines and redone everything again, it'll start to make a lot more sense and it'll come together. As for the feathers, I mixed a bit of I think is it magic blue. Magic blue. Yes, it is magic blue. I got it right. Which is a Vallejo game color range with white. Pretty much knocked it halfway to white. It's about 3 parts white, 1 part blue, something like that. But this has just allowed me to block in, fill in all of these feathers. At the moment, they don't look much like feather. They look just sort of like flat patterning, really, don't they? But I'm gonna paint the white over the top, and I'll create the feather effect as I'm painting the white. I've left the borders in the yellow. It gives contrast. I'm sure that there'll be a bit of bleed over on the white, and that will facilitate creating definition. And just so you can see, that's all the orange with the highlights both around the eye and where the beak meets the head, and then I've just blocked the head in blue, and again I will create feather patterning by how I use brush mark and applying white paint over the top. and that will lead to the feathered effect on the head, and then as with everything else, final outlines and stuff, and then everything, fingers crossed, should look amazing. I still have to start on the beak, which I want to do a sort of grey to black fade. We shall see how that comes out in a mo. First though, I'm probably going to do this feathering malarkey on these feathers. I'm going to leave outlining to last so that I do that as a job across the entire miniature, because it'll all be with the same colour. Just remember when you're doing this kind of thing as well, if you are trying sort of, I don't like wasting paint, right, so just try and keep your colours lined up in such a way that you can keep reusing them, and the palette range is limited in such a way that you feed the colours back into themselves. This helps to create a unified feel as well. Again, if you look at sort of some historical painting or what have you, or flat canvas painting, one of the ways of binding an image together is to create a glaze or wash or any of these kind of things, and what these are is a very thin suspension of pigment in medium, so that you create sort of a tint which covers the entire image, and this acts as a binding factor. You can also see this in film and cinema, television and what have you. There's a whole range of work involved in editing in these areas, where actually someone's job is just to sit down and make sure that the colour range and the colour tint for that scene is consistent across the entire scene, or multiple scenes where it's all set in the same place under the same conditions to express a feeling. And in fact, they sometimes change the tint in film and TV or what have you in order to express a change of emotion or feeling or threat level in an environment. So I'm going to crack on with doing the feathering effects, which is probably going to drive me stark raging mad, because it's going to be individual strokes in order to get that sense of being feathered. Joy and bliss for me, and in mere moments the results will be visible to you and you can see whether I've messed it up or not. So catch you in a second. Wings featherified. Might just do a final white outline around feather edges, although I'm probably going to end up having to do outlines in the same colour that I used to outline everything else, in all fairness. Certainly the wing form itself, and maybe the individual feathers, just to reassert the form and shape of them. There you go, there is all the feathering done on the head unit as well. Again, I think that this has come out alright, hasn't it? Nothing's come out awful. It's still all a bit messy, nothing's quite as neat as I'd like it to be, but I mean, again, take into account this is like the head that I've painted is maybe 8mm long, less than a centimetre long from end to end. In fact, the squares on the grid on the map that I'm on, so these dots down here and everything, these squares, these are 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre squares, so yeah, it shows exactly how teeny weeny this is. Still got to do the beak fade, and then I'll be into final line work with dark lines. Just classic drawing technique, you know, you see it in anime and animation of all kinds, where whether it's Disney or Oriental, to be fair, and that is just going around doing those outlines around the edges of things just to make everything sit apart and together and stand out. This isn't meant to be a realistic painting, it's meant to be a mural painted on a suit of armour. So yeah, but I'll crack on, get that done, and I will be back momentarily. There you have it. That's the Tengu head on the side of the head unit for the O-Yoroi Kidobutai. I'm not going to do anything else to it. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. I might decide to put a black line in between the beak and head, but I quite like it how it is. It doesn't matter, because next up is going to be starting to move on to highlights and stuff. So where, for instance, the green lines are running through the helmet plates, that's going to be turned into a sort of glowy effect. So there is going to be more lighting effects, there's going to be highlights and such forth which pertain to the armour, which are going to run over the top of this. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out. But onwards and to the main body. Here then is the leg and the claw painted onto the foot. Just give that a... Trying to keep this in focus for you, but more easily said than done right now, to be quite fair. Yeah, so there you go, that's the claw coming around the side of the foot. There's the claw gripping the orb on the shoulder. I think that's come out okay. Real pain to paint, but I think there's enough definition there where it actually looks like you can see what it is. Probably at the scale you're viewing it on the screen, it looks really messy. It doesn't actually look quite so messy in real life, and I might have to do another round of cleaning up and such forth at some point. Maybe enlarge the sort of thumb claw on the left. Don't know, we'll see. Here's the feather patterns. And I hope you can see with all of this that the sort of final black outline really does give that bit of definition and sort of bind everything together and make it look right. Maybe I should have put lines down the middle of the feathers. Maybe a slightly different colour, but if you get the feeling, you know, they look feathery. They have a feathery feeling to them. And yeah, teeny weeny painting. I'm not the best at it, but it's coming out okay. There you have it then. The mural on the O-Yoroi Kidobutai is, I think it's as far as I'm going to take it. I'm pretty happy. It's kind of hard doing freehand on these like shaped surfaces where you're kind of going around curves and getting into some pretty awkward corners in order to paint stuff. But I hope you think it's worked out well. I hope it's been some use to you and you found it interesting. Hope you're enjoying your painting and painting this kind of thing better than me. And hopefully I'll see you next time. So have a good and take care. Bye bye.